And that, did you guys follow your DMOs last week? Just drop a yes or a no in the chat. Did you follow your DMOs last week? Okay, did you follow your DMOs last week? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? We're gonna do this, we're gonna be doing this all the next 12 weeks. We're gonna be doing this all the next 12 weeks. Did you do your DMOs this week? And I'm gonna liberate you guys for a moment, because this is not to shame anybody. This isn't like, oh man, feel bad about myself, or I'm trying to make you feel bad about yourself. No, I'm doing this one to create accountability for you, okay, as well as myself. We're creating this space, but also number two, I want to remove the personal attachment. Like, we got to remove the personal attachment to these things, because what happens is we don't do something. And I made a post of, this is like, I had like this revelation, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And I made a post yesterday on consistency versus inconsistency. And I'll talk about it just a little bit, but the importance of just understanding like the power of just being consistent. I think sometimes what will happen is when we aren't, we take on this identity. So like over time, as we continue to not do the things that we said we're going to do, we like, it becomes this like attachment, and we take it personally, and it becomes like literally in like our identity. And then we feel shame, then we feel guilt, then we feel embarrassed, then we feel some type of way, we feel bad about ourselves, we look down on ourselves. And it's not really helpful, it's not really like doing anything for us in our personal growth. And then we find ourselves going through the motions of not doing it again the next week, the next week, the next week. And we're building this like, or not, sorry, we're building on to that old identity, that we're trying to remove, that we're trying to replace. And so I'm having you guys type in the chat, long story short, to release that personal attachment. Who gives a shit? Like, who cares what other people think? Oh, I didn't do my DMOs. Like, I don't want you guys to be like, oh, like, I don't care. But like, release that personal attachment to, and that identity around like that person. That's not you. Like, we're moving into like a new leader, like you're transformational, like you're the CEO of your business and your life, you're implementing these DMOs. And if you actually live out those values I just mentioned, if you take ownership of where you are right now to where you want to be, which you can start being that, like literally right now, it's literally a flip of the switch. Like, sometimes you have to take yourself back there by reviewing. Anyways, let me go through some of these DMOs. I know you guys remember from last week, we talked about the DMOs. You guys know prospecting, like they talked about this at the event. The three things that we should really be doing on a day-to-day basis: prospecting, presenting, and promoting. You guys know that. But what I want you to do, and this is going to be part of the action steps leaving this call, is I want you guys to write out, like clearly define your Bob Heilig, and this is where I'm getting the number from, four specific and clear DMOs based around the business. Okay. So I'm going to share mine as well that I do. I'll even share my screen and show you guys, but I want to get into this. Okay. I appreciate you guys for participating. If you did or you did not, it's okay. But it's okay only for today. We got to move forward, and just like make progress. If you didn't do anything this last week, I want you to ask yourself, you don't need to type in the chat. I want you to ask yourself why. Not why because you're in trouble. No, I want you to ask yourself because I want you to get real about the story that you told yourself. What was the story that you told yourself, about that circumstance, about whatever came up, about why you didn't maybe follow through at the time you said, or the activity that you're supposed to do? Why? What story did you tell yourself about yourself? I want to get you to dig into that limiting belief, because it's only holding you back. Okay? If you did do them, amazing, super proud of you, keep consistent. But I also go back to, what was that story that you were telling yourself? If you didn't, what story were you telling yourself? If you did, what story were you telling yourself? Okay. And the other thing too is, let's say you did nothing this week. Okay, we got to start with, like, you got to build on that. We can't do that in this coming week. Like, if you really want to have transformation in your life and your business and your leadership, we gotta build on that. But let's say you only did one day a week. Why? What happened on that one day? Let's say you only prospected you know, twice this past week. What happened? 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. Okay. And my big question is, if you didn't do it consistently, like identify that story, but was there somewhere along the lines that maybe you could have reached out and asked for help? You could have sought feedback. You could have asked for questions. That's another value. Be curious. Don't be attached to the fact that you don't know. It's okay. Don't be attached to the fact that, man, I missed one day. Man, I missed 2 days in a row. And I don't want to reach out for help because, you know, I didn't do that. Like, who cares? This is your success. This is your journey of growth. Like, you've got to like remove that. I don't know if I'm speaking to anybody on this call, like if you're resonating with this, but you got to let that go. Okay. So I want to go through this. If you actually did do something this past week, okay, maybe it was 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, maybe you did it consistently. That what you're doing is you're building evidence. Okay. Just like in trading, like you're building yourself evidence towards the person that you say that you want to be. Okay. And the most important part about this isn't, yes, all of it's important. It's the being, it's the doing. But one of the most important like pieces that I think is going to help, it's not my thinking, it's just what I've learned, and this is why I think this way, is the review. Like the most important piece of this is reviewing what you actually are doing. Because I said this at our meetup the other night, like going, doing, and you have no sort of like reflection or review of the things that you're actually doing, whether you're like, or lack of doing, and like taking the time to actually review. And why this is so important is because I said it already, it removes the personal attachment. It removes your personal attachment from the work. Guys, I have been reviewing and documenting and journaling my trades. This will be going into week 7 consistently. Like if I showed you, some of you guys have seen it. I have been so detailed and focused on my review and documentation. And I can tell you the biggest shift that I've had from doing that is I don't have a personal attachment to my losses, to like, and the other thing is like, I'm noticing the attachment that was there. Nancy said on Go Live, it's not a trading thing, but I'm just going to give this to you. She said on her Go Live, she was like, you don't even know what you did. You don't even know the trade that you took on January 22nd. Like, how are you going to remember all the things that you did in between, all the little things, the feelings, like just all of the minute things that just go unnoticed, that are subtle? How are you even going to know what you did to get that result in the first place? Is it actually sustainable or is it not? And she said something, I don't even have where it's at. I wrote it down somewhere else. No, it's right here. How can you get better tomorrow if you haven't fully understood today? How can you get better tomorrow if you haven't fully understood today? We cannot get better next month if we haven't understood this past month. We cannot get better going into next week if we haven't understood, taking the time to understand what happened this past week. And I really want to encourage you guys to start to review. Like, it doesn't need to be this long drawn out process, but it does need to be something where you are reviewing what you like did or lack of and why. And what you're doing is you're identifying the things that you're telling yourself, like how you felt. Did you have a schedule in the first place? Like, what time are you supposed to be prospecting? What time are you, dedicating to make content? Are you putting out content 3 to 4 times? Like, whatever it is, like, do you even have a time slot dedicated to that? Like, just like with your trading, Nancy was saying on her session, like, you should have a specific time that you jump on to trade, look at the charts, whatever, because you want to familiarize yourself with the market at that specific time. Because you can, that's what she's saying, is you create consistency from that. And you want the same thing with your business. You want consistency. You want like longevity, sustainability. Okay, do like something that's going to be duplicatable for your results, to not just go like this all the time, but you can have some sort of maintenance and compounding effect to your growth. Okay. So review removes that personal attachment from the work, so you can see what you're doing from what it for what it really is. And I read in my book that I'm reading right now, John Maxwell. Good leaders ask great questions. This is a phenomenal book. I have learned so much from this book, and I actually want to share a couple things with you guys that I think will help. I think will give you a new perspective on how to look at this. Okay. So he was talking about in this chapter blind spots, and he asked a question about leadership and leading yourself. He says, why does leading myself seem more difficult than leading others? And this is a question that you guys, or this is a response that I heard a lot from you guys in the forum about not only leadership, but leading others, like taking it to that next level. And he said the reason is your blind spots. He said it's you being able to be aware, identify, and then just get truthful about like your blind spots, about your weak areas, about the things that you just can't see. And the one thing that he had said when going over, I'm going to share with you the blind spots that he named, is you have to recognize that you can't deal with your blind spots alone. He said everyone needs help seeing and dealing with their blind spots. You cannot deal with yours alone. Okay. And if you don't believe that you have a blind spot, that is your blind spot. Okay. So I want to share with you guys real quick, the 4 blind spots that he shared. And I don't know if there's more, there probably is, but he kind of summarized them into each of these 4. And you might have blind spots in each area. I know I do as well. And it may not be just like, this is me, all or nothing. You may have like little like sprinkle of these throughout like what you do. And when you review, you'll start to recognize why they're actually holding you back. And you take that and you remove that personal attachment. So you can just do the work. You aren't attached to, am I good enough? And I do this. What do other people think? Like, and let me go through these, okay? So when you can review, you can identify. So when you do this review process, you can then identify your blind spots. When you come onto these, like just for the sake of these calls or in our group chat, sharing and being accountable, like this is what I'm working on, this is what I'm going through, and like these are this is the realizations that I'm having. Okay. So the first one, number 1, is having a singular perspective. Okay. He says singular perspective is all it is you have a one-track mind. You only see from your own perspective. Okay. Singular perspective means you only see it from your viewpoint, your lens, your outlook. You have a one-track mind when it comes to things. And that may not be what you always do, but it may be sometimes, and like again, sprinkled in throughout your whatever you do, that you do that. Okay. Maybe that's like a default for certain scenarios. Number 2 is insecurity. Okay. Insecurity, and summarized, is basically how often you're thinking about yourself. Okay. And how often you're worrying about what other people are thinking about you. Okay. I'm not making that post because of what other people are going to think. I'm not good enough. How often you're thinking about, yourself, and there's so many examples I could say. I can't even think of them right now. But you guys get my point. How often are you thinking about yourself? Because in leadership, you can't think about yourself. You have to think about the team and the betterment. Like they said last night at we went to the 6:30 Good Friday service, and it was like amazing. And he was talking about like Jesus hearing about his John the Baptist like basically getting killed, and he was trying he was like totally needed to cope, right? And like went off to be alone and pray and everything like that. And the crowd, I guess like the crowd of people were coming over to him, and he put his pain aside to be with the crowd. And I'm not saying like something like that you need to do, like go do what you got to do. But what I'm saying, and that's like a really dramatic example, but what I'm saying is Jesus was the greatest leader to ever live, to ever be, there ever was. And like kind of adopting the way like that thought process and being a leader, like sometimes you cannot like put all the time like the things in your life at the forefront. The way the what's the quote? Help people solve their problems and your problems will soon be gone. Something like that, right? Like if our problems are always at the forefront, then like where are we actually going? Like we're going to always be seeing our problems. Like we have to remove our problems so that we can focus on other people and helping them solve their problems. Because if we're always focused on our problems, and that's just going to be the story of our life, that's going to be our reality. Like we're not going to do the work. We're not going to do the DMOs. We're not going to review. Like we're not going to move forward. Okay. So insecurity actually has held me back a lot. And I've tried to overcome that. And we're working in progress. But the next one is ego. Okay. Being prideful. Basically, the best summary that he said is you're not seeking help. You don't seek feedback. You're not accountable. You kind of like think that you're under the radar with things like, oh, because of my circumstance or because of my situation, it's like this unique thing. It's like, no, it has nothing to do with anything. Like, do you have goals? Do you have dreams? Like, we're going somewhere. Let's go. Like, none of that applies to you. So ego, that's number 3. Number 4 is character. He actually put in the book weak character, but I'm going to address this for you guys. This is the one that I really wanted to focus on, is your character. Okay. Your character is what's going to take you to where you want to go. It's not your talents. It's not your gifting. Like, it's your character. And I want to read these off. Are you missing deadlines? Are you going back on your original decision because of feelings, because of something happened? And is this repeated? Like, what's going on? Are you going back to old behavior? Are you people pleasing? Are you not facing the truth? Are you taking the easy route? Is there a lack of trust, maybe with yourself or maybe with other people because of this consistency, or I should say inconsistency with your character? Okay, this is super important. So those 4 things are, like, I would say in summary, major blind spots: singular perspective, insecure, ego, prideful, and number 4, having a weak character. Okay. And it's basically just not keeping your word because of whatever. Okay. So I know, like, I personally have a mix of those that I'm working on. Like, sometimes I only see things from my perspective. I've tried, like, I think that was probably like one of my better ones on here, is I really do try to see from other people's perspective, because I want to be very careful with my words, because I know how it may affect other people in the way that they interpret it. But I know that sometimes I do that. Insecure, yes, of course. I think about, like, every time I do a call, every time I go to do something, I do think about, like, myself and how I showed up and how I, like, prepared. Like, what are they thinking? Who's going to be on this call? Like, I do think about those things, and I do worry about what other people think. And that's something that I'm also working on. And there's levels to it. Maybe you don't get to a point where you completely remove it, because you are always experiencing new things. But in that same environment that you keep, like, going back to, like, you've got to overcome that. You got to become better. If you're going to keep doing calls, you can't keep thinking that way all the time. Okay. Ego. Like, I know sometimes I don't seek help because of certain things that I'm working on. I'm giving you guys where I'm coming from, because I want you to know that it's okay to be okay with recognizing these things about yourself. And then the last thing is my character. Like, I really try, like, I know that my character is, like, the biggest thing for me in the way that that people see me, like my reputation, like the way that I do whatever I do. But I do try to make sure, like, I am operating from a constant, like, constancy, like a place of consistency with that. But my phone is being all weird and turn it off. But I want to share mine, because I'm okay with sharing mine, because I've taken the time to review, and I don't have that personal attachment. I'll tell you guys, like, I've been showing you guys, like, my trading and my documentation and my losses. You guys know that I actually was -2 for the month of March, but over the last week, I only took 4 trades, and I'm up 5% for the month of April. Like, we are up over 8.5% over the last 6 weeks. And I was like, I don't even really need a trade for the next 2 weeks. Like, I'm sharing this with you guys, not because I'm up, because I was showing you when I was down, because I don't have a personal attachment anymore to that stuff. Like, it's no longer, this is the biggest key, it is no longer my identity. So I don't need to feel shame. I don't need to feel guilt. I don't need to feel like I'm behind. I don't need to feel this sense of embarrassment. Like, I'm not attached to the result. I don't care. I'm focused on where I'm going. And I know where I'm going. You guys have to know where you're going too. And I think you know where you're going, but sometimes you don't honor that. You don't honor your values, because we're still trying to create a new, like, paradigm for ourselves. We've been hearing about that. We heard that at the convention. It's a process, but we can't keep going back to old behaviors. And I wanted to share those blind spots, because when you start to ask yourself, why didn't I do my DMOs for this past week? Why didn't I do my 5 prospects for the day? What story were you telling yourself? Okay. So as I said before, everyone needs help seeing and dealing with these blind spots. And the one thing that John Maxwell said in the book is you can't deal with yours alone, because you can't see it. Sometimes you're going to be reviewing it you don't even recognize. That's why I'm always going Alex, just because she happens to be here, right? But find accountability in our group. Text Mason. Mason, you text Caitlin. Marin, you text Crystal. Like Eric, you text Alex. Like whatever it is, ask each other, hey, like I'm working on this. I'm dealing with this. Like, what have you noticed? And seek honest feedback. If you want to come to me, like, let's go. I'll give you the honest feedback, but you have to ask. Okay. Don't be afraid. It's okay. Like, I don't look at you guys any other way, just to let you know. Like, this is like a safe space. There's no judgment zone. Why? Because I don't want you guys to keep looking at yourself from this lens. I see you for where you can go. I see you for who you can be. And that's how I want you to see yourself. And so I'm going to give that perspective if we have a conversation. Okay. You will truly be able to lead others when you can lead yourself. I know we've been talking about this. I know some of you guys put that in the form. You will truly be able to lead other people when you can lead yourself. That is so important. I think sometimes we want to have the big teams. We want to, be able to do all this stuff with people, and carry on and so on and so forth. But you can't get to that point until you really understand, like, true leadership is when you can lead yourself. How you do anything is how you do everything. And it does start with a lot of the stuff that we're going over today and review. So my questions for you guys, I already shared this with you in the beginning. I going to repeat them again because of the way that I wrote them. What are your specific DMOs for building the business? Write down 4. You don't need to type in the chat. Write down 4 after the call. I encourage you to actually text them in the group chat. Whatever you write down, whatever you put in your phone, text them a screenshot in our group chat, just to create culture, just to create accountability. Like, we're all on the same page. Okay. But your DMOs for building the business, and ask yourself from this past week, did you do those consistently? You at least knew one of them, prospecting. We all know that. You at least knew another, posting, get on social media. Like, how do people know that you actually do anything with your life if you don't post about it, if you don't share what you're doing, and just come on there and add value with direction? Don't just like kind of put stuff out there in a direction that can lead people to where you want to take them, to where you're going, and you can pull them with you. Okay. Did you do those consistently? If so, if you did do them consistently, what story were you telling yourself? Or if you did, then maybe 2 days in a row, what story were you telling yourself to do them back to back? And if you didn't do them consistently, what story were you buying into? What limiting belief is hanging over your head that you just keep being drawn to? What is that? You got to identify that for yourself. You don't need to type in the chat or anything like that. But this is actually going to be a really short call. We're almost done. I know it's Easter weekend. I hope you guys are taking the time to rest, reflect, take some time to get into your Bibles, take some time to learn about who Jesus is. And I'm not going to go on a tangent right now, but I just want to read you something from the post that I made about consistency. And I think this may help you guys in your perspective. And if you already read it, I'm going to read it again. Okay. But I realized that if you are inconsistent, then you will always tend to feel like you don't have time. And the reason why this is so powerful is because a lot of like the reasons why we do what we do, like if your values are based around freedom and flexibility, like it's oriented in time with, family, time doing the things that you want to do. Maybe it's traveling, maybe it's, new experiences. Okay. If that's like a core value of yours, then that's going to resonate with you, because you're always going to be thinking about like not having the time, or, I do have more time or whatever. And maybe you're coming home from work, or you had a long day, and maybe your scheduled time to do these things is kind of run over. And it's like, oh man, like, I've already messed up for today. Like I'm just going to do it tomorrow. Like, you have to recognize that's not how a CEO of their business operates. And maybe you're not there yet mentally, But you can start to look at yourself in a different way. Like maybe the next level at looking at yourself is just that transformational leader. Like you want to serve, like you want to help, you just want to be a person of integrity, you want to be a person of congruency, like you stick and stay with your word, especially if we're here wanting to lead. Like leaders have to follow that path. So if you are inconsistent, then you will always tend to feel like you don't have time. Okay. You will feel rushed. You will feel anxious. You maybe even will feel greedy to try and make up for lost time. And this is so powerful because oftentimes, even in our trading, we see the turn of events that happen when we get this way, when we don't review our feelings when we get into a trade or why we're even trading. Same thing with business. Are we just trying to go through the motions and spam out a bunch of messages just to get people to see a video or get people to get a sign up? Guys, I had so many opportunities this week to just send people my link to get started because they told me they were ready to get started. But instead of actually doing that, I took the time to start actually asking them purpose-driven questions. One of the questions I was asking, because it was like a couple months since we talked, and they like randomly sent me a message saying, hey, like, I want to actually do what you do. And instead of just being like, yeah, like, let's jump on a call and, I'll help you get started. Like, I actually took the time to ask, hey, what changed from the last couple of months since we spoke to now? Like, for now you want to get started, like what changed, what understand them. John Maxwell said in the book, great leaders take the time to understand their prospects, understand their people. That's how we're able to grow. That's how we're able to like actually really make a difference and create transformation, is not by telling people, but by understanding where they're coming from. It's only then when we understand where people are coming from, we can actually give them a solution to the problem or the challenge or the issue in their life. And that's when they're actually going to believe and trust that you can help them solve their problem. It's because now you've showed enough care, not like you need to show like, all right, here's the bar, I need to just get right above. It's like, no, like I've showed them that I care, that I have concern for where they come from. They said in the book, there's an association between people that feel loved and people that feel heard. Literally, the feeling is like indistinguishable, meaning it's the same. When people feel heard, it's literally like them, like the same thing as them feeling loved. So when people know that you are hearing them, when you're looking at them, when you're talking to them, if you ever have a conversation with me, I want to make sure that I am watching you when you speak. I don't want to look left. I don't want to get distracted of what's going on over here. I want to make sure I'm watching you and the way that you're talking to me and what you're telling me, not only because I want to hear you, like I need to listen and understand, but I want you to know that I'm actually like, I'm intent with whatever you're saying. I want to hear what you have to say. And when you do that with people, I know it's a little difficult because we're not in person, we're over text, but you can do that by being present in the conversation. I'm going on a tangent here, but I know some of you guys had questions this past week with having conversations and approaching conversations. I hope this is starting to click. You like being present and looking for the things that they're saying. It's kind of like the market. You're not trading what you think about the market. You're trading whatever like what you want to see out of the market. You're trading what the market is giving you. What is the market showing you? What is the market telling you? And you start to pick this up in your consistency and showing up and seeing the right things. Okay. Same thing in conversations. What is that person giving you? Like, what are they telling you? Like, they just mentioned fear. Why did they like ask them, what did you fear? I asked this guy the other day, I was like, hey man, what have you tried in the past? Because he said he wanted to get into, like, he wanted to leave his job one day. And I said, well, what have you tried to actually like leave your job? What have you done to attempt to do that? What have you liked? And he said, nothing really. I think it's just been fear. So instead of me trying to tell him what I think I should tell him, I'm asking him, and I might share and relate a little bit. Be like, man, like I relate to that. Like I've been in fear, my whole life about things. What do you think you're in fear of? And I asked, like, it's being present. All right, let me get back to this. I hope that was helpful, some context. So you feel rushed, you feel anxious, you maybe even feel greedy to try to make up for lost time. Okay. If you're inconsistent, this is huge. If you're inconsistent, you're simply just not prepared. Okay. And this is what happens when you're coming from a place of lack. I just gave away the answer. When you're not prepared. Okay. Because you're operating from a place of lack and scarcity, this literally affects everything that you're thinking, that you're saying, that you're doing, all the thoughts that you're having, the paradigm that you're creating for yourself, and you're coming from that place of fear and scarcity and lack. And you're not going to go anywhere with that. You're going to keep being inconsistent. And why this is so important on this call and why it's so relevant is because that's probably why many of us have not been consistent in our DMOs. There's some sort of lack of preparation, lack or scarcity that we're coming from. Like that's the place that we're rooted in. And that's where we're operating out of. And it's determining our thoughts. It's determining the things that we're saying. It's determining what we're doing. Why? What's going on? What's happening? Okay. So I said, however, if you remain consistent, then you won't feel the need to be concerned with time. You'll stop thinking, how long is this going to take? I'm running out of time. I just need to make up for what I don't have. You hear this all the time, okay? Because you're playing the long game. You have direction, you have sustainability, you have longevity, you know where you're going, and you know the person that you're becoming, okay? Consistency, I would write this down. Consistency builds your confidence. Consistency builds your confidence. You're building that evidence for yourself. You have to give yourself proof. Otherwise, you're not going to trust yourself. What proof do you have to lean on? That guy Alex Hormozi was saying, I am where I am because I just built myself enough proof over time. So when I started to doubt, that doubt just literally went away because I had so much proof that I could lean on. That proof built me. So when I wanted to fall, that proof literally picked me back up because that doubt that was staring me in the face, it literally was so insignificant compared to the evidence and the proof that I built for myself. Okay. You're building that new paradigm, and you do that by raising your level of awareness, by getting into the review stage of your process. Okay. So consistency builds your confidence, and it also multiplies your efforts. So as you continue to do them day in, day out, not only are you going to get better because you're reviewing and you're actually just doing it, but you're multiplying your efforts. You're actually getting better and better and better. The multiplication effect takes comes into place. You will literally go in 6 months from unrecognized, you won't even recognize yourself from day 1 to day 180 or whatever it is. Okay, so instead of feeling like you don't have the time, you're actually condensing time. You now find yourself patient because you're prepared and you trust yourself. Most importantly, you respect yourself. You're honoring your values to yourself because you're following through. Okay. So I just wanted to share that with you guys and give you some perspective, but that's really the call, y'all. This is, I know it's Easter, so I want to kind of let you guys go and do your thing today. If you're going to church at 2:30, see you there. We're going to go to that service. If you are not in Arizona, highly recommend to get to a church service, get in there, get to meet some people and get in God's presence, baby. But some action steps, I'm going to drop these in the chat for you guys to see and take a screenshot of. But I want you over this next week, and you're going to see me do it. I'm not just all right, you guys go ahead. You're going to see me, as you guys saw me this last week, dropping your same thing. Drop your 5 prospects or whatever you're doing, whatever number it is. Drop your 5 prospects in the chat. I know I said last week, Monday through Saturday. Some of you guys are only doing Monday through Friday, whatever. Just do them on the days that you're doing, okay? Get clear on 4 DMOs based around the business. Your DMO for this is not, I'm going to work out, or as much as I want you to work out, it's based around the business. And so just as an example, some of mine are prospecting, it's following up, it's creating and putting out content. I kind of put those together, content, okay? And my last one is promotion. You'll see me in the chat promoting the week, day-to-day calls. Those are my 4 that I'm focused on a day-to-day, weekly basis. If there's a call, I'm promoting in the chat. Oh my gosh, before I forget, guys, and I'm going to post the rest of them in here, I need to ask you guys this question before I forget. Let me take it off record.